Thank you for leaving your avatars here. You're in for a treat. We have an amazing next session. Not to finally close us out, but to bring us on home before our award ceremony. So what we're going to be doing, for anybody who wasn't around this morning when we used our video feature where our guests turned on their webcam, you are in for a treat. It is something fantastic. So we are going to have our CEO, Jason Gessing, actually by webcam chatting with America's favorite shark, Robert Herjavec. So I'd love to invite Jason and Robert up now. Get connected, turn on their webcams. Welcome, Jason. Welcome, Robert. I'll turn it over to you two.
Hey, Robert. Welcome to eXp World.
Hey, Jason. Thanks for having me. This is so cool. Look at all the avatars. Woo.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I make any point at all in this conversation, and it's probably the only point I make, is that I'm lucky enough to be up here on the board and here with you asking these questions, but the only reason why that's the case is that we couldn't fit 38,000 plus people up on the screen with me. But what we've done, we have culled through many questions that our agents have submitted. They'll be submitting more throughout the session, but we've identified some that we think are great. You've seen those. We've had a chance to talk about them, but this is an absolute thrill for all of us, and just want to thank you for being here. Maybe, if you would, why don't we get started? Maybe for those who don't know, maybe just take us through your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. What an amazing event, by the way. I applaud you for doing this, in this mid-COVID, post-COVID, however you want to call it, world. It's really the innovators and people that are pivoting to do stuff like this. I always say the people that do nothing are the ones that get left behind. It's better to try something, fall down, and keep going. Constant forward moment. And by the way, what a great day with the news of the vaccine today for all humanity. But I'm a entrepreneur just like the other 5 sharks. I think that's a great thing about our show is we're all self-made. Nobody gave us anything. We all had different journeys. The sharks always make fun of me for being the poor immigrant story, how I came over on a boat, with a rat on it and all this other stuff. But, I think like so many other people in your audience, I just wanted to set my own journey and my own direction in life. I watched my dad work in a factory for many years and never wanted to do that. Always wanted to be in control of my own destiny. Started a small business, sold it for a little bit of money. In fact, I think it was $60,000. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's all the money in the world. My life will never be better. Started another business, sold that one, and then started this business 17 years ago. And, the consistency is I love what I do. Like I think all great entrepreneurs do. I'm deeply passionate about it, and I work like heck.
Excellent. Well, and if you don't mind me asking, what was that first business, and how did you end up on Shark Tank? How did you land Shark Tank?
Yeah, if I've done anything right in life, I've stayed in computer security. So my core business is cybersecurity, and when I was 21, I got a job in cybersecurity and stayed with it. So I'm only smart enough to do the same thing, just in different companies. So how I ended up on Shark Tank was in the early 2000s, I got a call. Believe it or not, Shark Tank started in Canada, and it was called Dragon's Den. So I used to live in Canada. I live in LA for the last 6 years. But in the early 2000s, I get a call from the national network up there. And I go for a meeting and they say, we'd like you to be on this TV show. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a big TV star. I didn't know I had to audition for it. So I sit down in my chair with 4 other people and I say, what do I do? And they said, these people are going to come in and they're going to, pitch you a business. Just ask them some questions. So I'm sitting there. First couple comes in. I go to speak, but the guy next to me starts talking right away. And, I'm a pretty nice guy. So I say, well, I'll wait for the next one. Next couple comes out. I start speaking. Guy next to me cuts right over me and goes in a whole different direction. And I'm thinking, wow, that guy's really rude. Third couple comes out. I start speaking. Guy next to me does the same thing. I stand up and I say, if you do that one more time, I'm going to take you outside and beat the crap out of you. That guy was Kevin, and the mean bald guy from Shark Tank. So Kevin and I started the show in Canada 17 years ago, and we auditioned on the same day, and that's how we got the role.
That's great. That's a great story, and I know everybody has their favorite shark. One of the questions that we had has been upvoted by our agents, so they're really keen on this one, and it is first impressions. You're constantly, people are making their first impression with you. I mean, what do you look for? What to you is most impressive when somebody first has the opportunity to present to you?
Jason, it's interesting that you say that. Shark Tank filming is really long. We sit there for 12 hours a day. I mean, we only film 11, 12 days a year, so take my complaining with a grain of salt. But the show is very, very real. The average pitch is over an hour. The longest pitch was 4 hours. The shortest was like 40 minutes. No matter how long or short, it gets edited into 7 minutes that you see at home. It's really incredible. The magic is in editing. But think about this. We're sitting there 12 hours a day. And you know what we're thinking about? Not you. We're thinking about our business. Barbara's thinking, what's for lunch? Mark is thinking, why is my basketball team stuck? I mean, our mind is not there. And then the doors open. We've never met you. We know nothing about you. And you walk in. And it's unbelievably powerful. By the time the doors open, you coming out and hitting your mark, and those first few words you say, 50% of the time, we've already made up our mind. And if you ever watch our show, sometimes people come out and they don't know their numbers, and we're like, you're an idiot. You don't know your numbers. Why are you here? And then somebody else will come out, they don't know their numbers, and we're like, oh, that's okay. We have accounting people that'll help you with that. What's the difference? It's the impression you made at the beginning. The first thing that people don't realize that you sell in any environment is yourself. And even before you speak, it's the nonverbal cues that are so powerful. How do you stand? Are you slouched over? How are you dressed relative to what you're selling? If you're selling me a professional product geared at businesses and you come out wearing a t-shirt, subconsciously, I'm like, what the heck's going on? And similar, if you're selling surfboards and come out in a suit, it just doesn't sync. It's all those subconscious little cues. My wife was on Dancing with the Stars, and she used to say to me, the way the audience knows if you can't dance is actually not how you move, because most people can't dance. It's your frame and where you keep your eyes. People that are lost are like looking in a million different directions. She always gave me this hint when I was on Dancing with Stars: look just above the audience and try to maintain contact. I mean, it's a million little things like that, but sell yourself.
Okay, that's great. Another question that's been submitted here. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received from someone you highly respect?
Gosh, I've been really lucky. I've worked with some incredible people. I've met some amazing people. It's the greatest benefit of being a shark, besides helping so many people, is the access you get to meeting some of the great people, from, Warren Buffett to Oprah to Roger Penske, everybody. I would say, the best advice I probably ever got was from Warren Avis, who I used to work for, and he's the guy that started Avis Rent-A-Car. And what he said to me was, if you want to be great at something, you got to learn how to run a business. Meaning, I used to think it was all about sales, and it is. And I really believe sales cures all ills, but I didn't understand numbers. I didn't understand finance. I didn't understand any of that part of business. And he really sat me down and he said, you got to understand your numbers. I mean, sales is a big part of it, but you've got to understand that interaction of numbers.
And do you have any morning or evening routines that are really important to you that sort of get you going for the day?
So I am a absolute creature of habit. So a long, long time ago when I was really young, I couldn't get up in time. Like I used to love to sleep. I was pretty disciplined, but not the level I am now. And I forget who it was. It was another great piece of advice. Somebody said to me, discipline is the byproduct of habit.
Discipline
bad habits
is the byproduct of
is
habit. Bad habits is just
it. You know, if you have good habits,
have
it creates
habits,
good discipline, and so on.
and so on.
And so what I
And
did
so
was, Jason, do you hear an echo?
Did you hear an echo?
Yeah, we'll take care of that in 1 second. But we can hear you fine, Robert. Robert, if you don't mind, you're going to have to just unmute. We did, if you could. Sorry. Just unmute your.
Hey, Jason, can you hear me?
Yeah, no, you're great. We had to shut off the. So sorry about that. But please continue.
Yeah. So basically, I forget where I was, but it was, you know, anything you do for 21 days in a row as a habit, you'll do on the 22nd on your own. So I really got into this thing of doing little things every day in order to set the discipline. So I wake up at 4:30 every day, believe it or not. I get up, I have a coffee, and I go to my office, and the first thing I do every single day is I light a candle. And I am not a feely, fluffy, esoteric kind of guy. But another friend of mine years ago said to me, in the face of extreme darkness, it is always better to light a single candle for the light than to curse the darkness. And I've had some really rough days, and I just really remember that it's the act of hope. So every day, no matter how bad my day is going to be or how good my day is going to be, I light that single candle, and it just brings hope to me. It makes me believe that today can be better than yesterday. And so, you know, then I go and do normal work, and I work out every day and all that kind of stuff. And yes, I'm extremely irritating to live with. I drive my wife nuts because I do this every day, and I'm extra hyper, and I'm always this happy 99% of the time.
Exercise was the one I was waiting for, because when I watch the show, it seems like you're always the guy that's willing to try something, something physical, like the skateboard, or like, I can't remember all the examples, but you're like right up there immediately, like no fear, trying whatever people are putting in front of you.
Well, Jason, I am. I used to race cars at a very high level. I ride motorcycles. I parachuted. I snowboard. I do it all. But, people say to me, oh, you're the sporty one, or you're the nice one. And I always remind people, relative to the other sharks, it's not a very high bar. It's calling me the athletic one next to Kevin or Mark. It's really not that much of a compliment, but I appreciate it.
Well, our agents want to know what's the worst deal that you ever consummated, or the worst pitch that you've heard.
So the worst pitch I ever heard, and there's a great lesson out of this, I think it was season 2 or 3. It was called the PP poll. And so this guy comes out, and so imagine it's a golf club that undoes at the top, and the premise was you're golfing in mixed company, you need to go to the bathroom, and you have to relieve yourself. Where do you go and mix company? Because, when guys play golf, they go into the woods, but you don't want to do that. So the pee-pee pole, you unscrew the pole, there's a little towel, and there you go. And I remember watching this and thinking, oh no, it was season 1, thinking, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. This is ridiculous. And it gets worse. Guy had bought like $80,000 worth of inventory because he was so sure this was going to work. Here's the amazing thing. One of the sharks, Kevin Harrington, who was on season 1, buys into the deal. So we're all like, this is ridiculous. But here's the moral of the story. One man's bad idea, properly executed, can still be a great business. Kevin sells it as a gag gift. The guy who invented it was very serious about it. I mean, he thought, people are going to buy this. It's going to be in every golf club. We thought it was ridiculous. And so did Kevin, but he turned it into a gag gift. Talk about lemonade from lemons.
That's great. All of the folks that are in the auditorium and in the overflow auditorium and watching around the globe who are affiliated with our company, they're all entrepreneurs, right? And the world has changed. The world's changed a ton in the last year. A lot of things happening and going on. Any advice for these independent business owners relative to success today, generally, and then also today in the world as it exists?
Yeah, first of all, I really applaud everybody who's taken that journey and had the guts to do it. Nobody understands what it's like working in the environment you work in until they do it. And I always think there's two kinds of people in life. There are people that sit on the sidelines and criticize and are spectators at the sport of life. But I think all of you, me, the people that are putting it out there are playing the game. And if you're gonna play the game to win. I think it's really hard, as everybody knows. There's a lot of uncertainty, but I always think of it this way. No matter what you do, there'll be change and there'll be conflict and there'll be adversity. Would you rather do it and control your situation or have somebody do it for you? My dad worked in a factory. He was a blue collar guy. And one day he showed up at work after working somewhere for 18 years and, they laid him off and he lost his job. He had no idea it was coming. It just happened out of the blue. And I think that's really where I got the desire to be an entrepreneur, because I never wanted that to happen to me. I didn't mind failing, but I wanted to fail on my own terms. I didn't want to have somebody else control my life for me. I think this is a great time to be an entrepreneur, but I think any time is a great time to be an entrepreneur. The one thing we've really learned during COVID and pre-COVID is people that connect with their customers, that have that direct connection with their customers will always survive. People that don't have that ability to understand and connect with their customers are going to struggle, because no matter how quick the world is, no matter how digital the world is, you know what people still look for? Personal human connection.
Absolutely. And we like to pride ourselves in thinking that we're able to pull that off here in this environment and across geographies. I love this next question that our agents have come up with. If you needed a real estate agent, and perhaps you do, how would you go about finding and choosing one to work with?
Gosh, that's a great question. And because I love real estate, I got to tell you, if I wasn't in the computer business, I would be in the real estate business. I love real estate. It feels tangible to me. It feels real. Plus, I love going through homes and all of that kind of stuff. And I love the sales aspect of it. What I love about it is, for most people, you are on the journey to what is, for most, the biggest investment they'll ever make. How exciting is that? And how humbling is that? And how much pressure and excitement is that to be involved with somebody at that critical point. So I love what everybody does. I think it's a great industry. How would I find an agent? I would probably look online. I would look in my area. It depends where I was looking to buy. And, I would really try to do my research and find out who knows my area. Because fundamentally, Jason, I want somebody who I feel like I can negotiate. I feel like I'm a pretty good business guy. So what do I want from an agent? I want somebody that knows more than I do. You know what the definition of an expert is? Somebody who's from more than 100 miles away. That's what we always say in the consulting business. But it's true. I want to hire an expert at the area, at that home, at something.
Excellent. Okay, people are taking notes furiously. We've been at this for the better part of 10 years, and you can probably surmise, operating in this way allows us to free up cash that allows us to really change the compensation model within the industry. Part of that compensation model, we've talked about a little bit, which is that our agents, whether they want to be or not, or like to be or not, they are all owners of the public company that is over eXp Realty. And from my perspective, that just made all the difference in the world for us when that happened, just from a mindset standpoint. But I'd love to get your thoughts both on employee-owned companies and whether you've invested into employee-owned companies. And by the same token, part of our model, I'll stop there.
Yeah, I think what you guys have done in eXp Realty is fantastic to have a public company where everybody gets a stake. I'm in the tech business. Tech is one of the fastest growing areas in the economy, and there's it's not a small part of it that every great tech company has an option plan for employees to be part of that company. Owners work harder, full stop. Owners work harder. There used to be an airline in Canada that had a similar program where you got a certain amount of stock and equity in it. And I got to tell you, there's just something about being invested in the overall business that I just think gives you that pride of ownership.
Absolutely. So in your business, Robert, how important is innovation? And I imagine it's very important, but in digital security, how important is it to your continued success?
Gosh, in our business, Jason, we have a saying that says, there are two speeds of all business, the quick and the dead. And you don't want to be the dead. So in tech, things move very, very quickly. And so here's the problem for me. Think about this. My company is pretty big now. We're about 350, 400 people, but I'm competing against IBM, who has 700,000 employees. And every business I've had, whether it's this one or my first one, I've always competed against people that are bigger than me, that have more resources than me, that have better marketing material than me, that have blah, 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 something. But innovation that can differentiate me from the other people, no matter how big they are. And I think innovation is the key to every business. Because if you could do it the same old way, and if you could teach it in a textbook, guess what? Every MBA would be a multimillionaire. Innovation is the key that makes you as an individual stand out and the business stand out.
Great. Have another question from our agents. Have you ever regretted making a deal with somebody on the show?
Barbara. I regret every deal I've done with Barbara. No, I'm just kidding. I love Barbara. No. I've been very fortunate. I've had some. We've learned a lot how to make the investments, how to work with people. No, I don't have the word regret has very limited time in my vocabulary. I really believe that most people give too much credibility to that word. I'm just a big believer, and you got to let it go. You got to let it go. There is no rear view mirror in my life. I mean, you got to let it go. And I think that's one of the great things about this country, about businesses like yours, Jason. It doesn't matter how many times you fall down. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter all the bad things that happened to you or how hard things were. If you don't like the book that is your life, you have the ability to write the next chapter. And the great thing about this country is we have a very, very short memory for failure, and we celebrate success.
That's great. I love it. And you alluded to this at the beginning when we talked about first impressions. And let's just assume somebody comes in and they've not bombed on the first impression. So all those cues that you look for, you've got a favorable view coming in. What are the other things that you look for when you make a decision as to whether or not to invest in a business? Are there certain things that are particular to you, especially?
Yeah, great question, Jason, because we have invested in people that didn't make a great impression up front, and then we continue with the deal. But at that point, I think it's an uphill battle. So if the first impression doesn't work, we then really scrutinize the quality of the product or service and the business. So if you don't have that, they'll get there if your presentation is great. So maybe you have a house in a very unique area that's across the street from a school, and I have young kids. Even if you don't wow me up front, I want that location. So I think when we look for investments, it's a balancing act. Just like selling a house, it's never one thing. It's not obvious. It's the balance of all those million little things you look for.
So as you love real estate, as you look at the industry as much as you do, it may not be a ton, but you're looking at it from the outside. Is there something that jumps out at you that you think the industry needs to do to innovate? Is there something that we're missing?
Well, first of all, what a great time to be in real estate. Oh my gosh. I think everybody during COVID has learned to hate their house. I think everybody during COVID wants to buy a bigger house. People want to move. I mean, I've been really following real estate. I bought 3 homes during COVID because I just want to go to places. I don't think I'll be traveling as much for work. I think that cadence has changed for a long time, but I think you're going to see people begin to travel for pleasure or driving or all of those kind of things. I think that residential real estate especially is going to be on fire for a long time because of COVID and people wanting to move. And I think you're going to see a mass exodus in certain areas. People are shifting from here to there. If I can work remotely, why do I have to live where I live right now? Because if you think about it, most people bought their home. Why? It's close to the office. I live in an area close to Los Angeles. There's an area about half an hour farther from me where homes were 45% cheaper. But I didn't go look in that area because that extra 40 minutes or 30 minutes was an hour and a half because of traffic in LA. Well, guess what? I'm never going to the office again, and most people aren't. So I think you're seeing tremendous activity in my area, tremendous activity in that area. So that's one thing. I think interest rates will continue to drive the real estate market. And I really believe the economy is going to go boom. I mean, look at the news of the vaccine, the stock market. I mean, MGM stock was up 20%. Airlines were up 20% today. Man, what a great time to be in real estate. Seriously. Like I think if you can get your act together and you can go faster, this is going to be a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been seeing it too, and not being dependent upon brick and mortar, it's been beneficial to us because we can serve all of those areas that people are moving to from the cities.
I think that's great, Jason. I think, like, you look at, I have 7 offices around the world. I'm shutting them all down. I don't have a single friend in New York that isn't getting their real estate, commercial real estate, smaller. I don't have a single friend who owns a business that said to me in the last 6 months, I need more office space. They're all letting their employees work from home. And although those employees are making decisions as to where to live. And I think it's changing the dynamic. People want bigger homes, they want bigger yards, all that kind of stuff. I think it's really smart that you guys have a model that you don't need an office. Why do I want to go to my real estate agent's office? Like, why would I want to do that? Why do I care?
Right. Right. So a follow-up, I mean, as you shut those offices down, how do you sort of think about building or keeping community, keeping culture in your company?
That's really hard. So I will tell you, that's been the biggest challenge for us. I mean, it's been what, 8 months with COVID now. I've seen one person. So we have roughly 350 employees. I've only seen one person in my company physically during that 8 months. And we're struggling with that because we're missing that human connection. So like you guys are doing this virtual seminar with avatars, I think this is great. But in our world, we've been doing stuff like this, not as sophisticated as this, for 8 months, but we're missing getting together. And I think as soon as COVID breaks, whatever that means, and there's no more quarantines. I mean, we have offices all around the world, England and Canada, and they all have quarantine. So I can't bring people anywhere. But I think you do it through collaboration. You do it through this level of communication. People need a reason to belong to something. And I think you got to keep giving people that.
Yeah. Well, that's, you know, one of the things about this campus is on a daily basis. I mean, we're all interacting with one another. We had a soccer tournament earlier in the year where all of our countries and various states participated. We've got a concert a little bit later on tonight. We've got speedboats. But I said this morning, we've been separate for the last 7 months, but we've not been alone. And I think that's been a real value and asset to us for sure. Another question that's come up, if it's okay. So young people getting into business, what's your best advice for people who are young that are just starting out and want to get their word out there?
I think you got to be great at something. I think many young people tend to follow the trends. Today they want to be a stockbroker. Tomorrow they want to be this. Tomorrow they want to be that. You know, I was very lucky to stay in computers. If I would have stayed in real estate, I mean, the world doesn't reward mediocrity. You've got to be great at something. And I think if you're going to do it, you got to do it to win, and you got to really learn everything there is to know about it. You know, I think of the great real estate agents that I love are the ones that know deeply everything about what I want to buy. I mean, I love the real estate agent as we're driving up tells me, you know, that home sold for that. Here's what's happening in this area. There's so much construction, blah, blah. Like, I love that. I love that level of knowledge.
So, biggest mistake, and how did you overcome it in business?
Gosh, too many to remember. I honestly can't remember the biggest mistakes. I think the biggest mistake, if I have to lump them all together, was to the earlier point of regret. I used to really be hard on myself about failure and when things, you know, go wrong. And I have to give, you know, I know I always joke around about Barbara, but I have to give her credit. She said it really well. She said the difference between successful people and others is not that successful people don't have bad days. It's not that successful people don't have rainy days or bad things don't happen to them. Only difference is how long they allow themselves to wallow in their own misery. And if there's one thing I regret is I think when I was younger, I used to do a lot of wallowing. It was like, oh, me, oh no, why couldn't it have worked out this way, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm like, you know what, it happened, it's over, wake up the next day, let's go get that day and let's make it happen.
So for the Sharks, Robert, or for you, what does work-life balance mean? Is there such a thing in your universe?
No, there is no work-life balance. I think, but here's the great thing about COVID. We're here. And this is a great thing about starting your own business. You get to set your own schedule most of the time. Like, I'm working from home. I haven't been in the office for 8 months, but for 8 months, I have 2.5-year-old twins. For 8 months, I've been there for every morning when they've woken up. I've been there for every lunch. I've been there for every dinner, every bath time. Love that. And that's the great thing about having your own business, is you get to work after people go to sleep. But balance is hard. And you know, if you want to be ultra successful and you want to become wealthy, can't work 9 to 5. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Here's a meaty one. So, you know, a lot of conversation always, but especially within the last 8 or 9 months, about diversity and inclusion and equality and social justice. From your standpoint, what roles do these things play? What role does diversity and inclusion and equality play in your business or in business today?
Well, I think the world is just catching up to businesses and verticals like tech. You know, I think anybody who has any semblance of rationality or intelligence in business has realized a long time ago, if you don't give everyone an opportunity and you don't have a diverse work culture, you're only benefiting from a singular view. And I think that that's the great thing about tech, is the level of competition in our world is so high that we look for ways to differentiate. We look for people that can think out of the box. And I just think that the world is catching up to that. And I'm very optimistic about it. You know, like, I think it was really hard for me when I came here as an immigrant. It's really hard for a lot of my friends, but I think the world is catching up. I'm very optimistic.
You have the chance to give, somebody comes into your office and you have a chance to give them one book, pull one book off the shelf and give it to them. What book is that?
Ooh, that's a great question. Probably give them how to sell and influence people, how to sell anything and influence people. Jason, do you remember the name of it?
How to make friends and influence people, or win friends and influence people?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, the Napoleon Hill book. I mean, he was great. If not that, Dale Carnegie, sorry, yes. No, I thought it was Napoleon Hill. I'm just reading it now. How to Win Friends, Influence People. That one, or Machiavelli's The Prince.
Ah, fantastic. Okay, here's a crazy one, Robert. Silly, so have fun with it. During the zombie apocalypse, what is your weapon of choice and why?
My killer dog. I just got to kill. That was my COVID gift. I was so worried about the world, and I ended up getting this unbelievable Belgian Malinois. There's a place half an hour. I love dogs to begin with. We already have a little cute dog, but about a half hour from my house is a place that trains highly trained dogs for the Marines and the Secret Service. And we were able to get one of those dogs. She's unbelievable with my kids. But if there was a zombie at my door, let me tell you, Jason, she would rip through the zombie on command. I feel very comfortable and safe.
That's great. That's terrific. Personality profiling, whether it's Myers-Briggs or the DISC, or you ever engage in any of those tests and about things about yourself? I mean, I think a lot of people in this room here could take a guess as to what your DISC might be, but have you gone through any of those exercises, and have they been eye-opening?
Yeah, very much. I'm a big believer in it, but I'm also very cautious about it. I'll give you a quick example. Early on, I was told I wouldn't be any good at business because I didn't score well on that part of the tests, but I did score well on creativity and all those kind of things. So early on, people said to me, don't go into business, go into the arts. And so I actually have a degree in classical English literature, if you can believe it. And I was going to get an MBA, but I failed math. And so I got a classical English literature degree. And so you would think, what the hell am I going to do with a classical English literature degree? But going back to your earlier question about innovation, I think one of the reasons I've done well in cybersecurity is building a business takes a lot of creativity. You have to be able to see something before it occurs. It's not just about the numbers. It's not about all those things. It's about connecting the dots. And I think all great business people are highly creative. So I do believe in those tests. They're just a guide point. You've got to be careful how you read them.
Yeah, absolutely. So core values, we've identified our corporate core values. I mean, are there core values for you, Robert, and your business, and what role do they play?
Yeah, the first one is to your point about diversity and respect. I mean, it is absolutely fundamental to who we are. I never yell at somebody. I would never demean somebody in front of somebody else. I mean, I think there's just a human respect that we treat each other. I mean, we try to say there's nobody here who is better than me, and I am no better than anyone else. I think the second one is anything you ask somebody to do, be willing to do it yourself. I always say to people, if I'm asking you to work hard, I'm willing to work just as hard. So that's a big core value for us. And the other one is love to compete. Love to compete. Next one is hate to lose. I mean, we hate to lose. Like when I tell you we hate to lose, I mean, we hate to lose. I love to win, but I hate to lose more. And I think that's just our culture.
As we come towards the close here a little bit, I mean, all of the things that you've done, all of the people you've met, what in your mind is next for you? I mean, and I guess also 2021, what do you see for 2021 as we go forward?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I mean, I'll give you an insight that I see, and again, it's great being a shark because you get to meet so many successful people and people that are trying to better their lives. And I think what I've learned is people that think they've accomplished something tend to flatline. Most people that aren't successful look at somebody who's done something and think that there's this magic door that you walk in, and as soon as you get through that door, the door of success is, puppy dogs and unicorns and roses. But it's not. Everybody in this room knows it's hard, and it's really hard. And, for me, it's constant forward momentum. I want to do better than I did yesterday. I want my company to be bigger next year than it was the year before. Why? Because it's human progression. And I really think you're either hungry and you're driving forward, or you're dying. And I don't mean just dying from a business perspective. I mean dying from a personal, physical perspective. And so I never want to get old. And I don't mean just old physically, because I already am physically old, but I just never want to get old mentally or business-wise or lose my edge. I just want to keep going. I am so bullish about 2021. I got to tell you, I am bouncing off the walls with excitement. And this was prior to today, before we had the vaccine, I just think gotta go. Here's the downside of all the opportunity in front of everybody in this room. Everybody in this room has the same opportunity, and everybody out there does also. So the difference is going to be you and the company you work for. You guys work for a great business, gotta get going. The time to wait is not when it's apparent. Most people are sitting around right now thinking, oh, what's it gonna be like? Is it really gonna be good? What should I do? You know what? I'll wait. You know what happens when you wait? You lose opportunity. Go now.
Love it. And our founder, Glenn Sanford, who just put a comment in the text chat, gave a great talk today about coasting versus continuing to have that purpose. So you and he would get along quite well. Do you have a business coach, Robert?
I don't. I think I never had one when I really needed one, probably, because I probably didn't know anything. And I have a horrible habit, Jason. I'm asking a million questions of whoever I meet, and it can get really irritating really quickly. I'm just naturally inquisitive, and I find inspiration from everyone and everybody. Like this morning, my gate broke, and the gate guy came over to fix it. I'm sure when he left, he thought, oh my God, that guy was so annoying. I asked him a million questions. I'm like, well, why does it work this way? How long has your company been around? Why do you do it this way? And by the way, after they finished fixing my gate, they sent me a text asking me what I thought about the service. I love that. I called the guy and said, this is a great idea. I'm sure he thought, buddy, I'm just here to fix your gate. But I love that. I find inspiration all around me. My mom had a great saying, which is, you can lead your life in one of two ways. Either everything is a miracle or nothing is a miracle. And look at the life and the opportunity we all have in this amazing country that we live in. How can you not feel thankful and miraculous every day?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I joke with my wife. I said, at least I'm the one asking the questions. I'm glad I'm not the one answering questions here. Having watched the show for many years and enjoying it very much. I'm going to do one more thing here, and it may get a little loud and messy, but I know people are here and they are looking at you and they're so excited and they feel like they could just reach into the screen and shake your hand. I'm going to let everybody turn on their microphone and express their appreciation and say hello if that's